Call the meeting to order. This is the December 18th meeting of the Concord City Planning Board. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll? You got to look this way.
Yes, I know.
Okay, it's new.
It's really hard.
David Fox.
He here.
Matthew Hicks.
I'm here.
Teresa Rosenberg.
I'm here.
Jeffrey Santa Cruz.
Here.
Amanda Savage.
Here.
Brent Todd.
Here.
And Richard Woodfin.
Here, present.
And Dina Kondo-Dimitraki is walking in as
we will recognize her and sit her. And we do have a quorum, so we'll open the meeting. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the November 20th meeting as submitted, or have any changes?
So moved. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Just a quick comment. I just think that Krista's done a marvelous job on these minutes.
The minutes are exceptionally well done.
Yes.
And not to mention the fact that what is it, 34 pages? It's a novella, you know. But it's a wonderful.
More importantly, she doesn't tape it and remembers everything.
Oh, that's amazing.
Jots it down at the end of the night.
That's very good.
Point taken, Councilor Todd.
yes.
Thank you for mentioning it.
Yeah.
Second.
All right. So we got a motion, a second, a congratulations, and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Quick agenda overview for those of you in the audience. There are a lot of changes here on the agenda, so I'm gonna run through them quick, and then we got to do a couple of motions. If you're here tonight under item 7A, which is lot line adjustment at 115 and 119 River Road. Item 8C, an easement modification at 31 and 33 Samuel Drive. 7C, a lot line adjustment at 12 Toronto and 11 Summit Street. And 7B, Alden Place condo plat at 310 South Main Street, as well as 7D, which is Chapel Tractor at 391 Loudon Road. All of those items have been requested by the applicant to be moved either the January, February, or March meeting, and those will be re-noticed.
No.
So we'll make a motion here on each of them. Just note down if you're here for those will not be heard tonight. So first item on the agenda is we need a motion to continue to the January 15th meeting at the request of the applicant, item 7B, 7C, and 8C. Would someone like to make a motion to continue those items?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We need a motion to continue to the February 19th meeting at the request of the applicant, item 7A, which is a lot line adjustment at 115 and 119 River Road. Would someone like to make that motion?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And item 7D is a motion to continue to the March 19th meeting at the request of the applicant at Chapel Tractor at 391 Loudon Road. Would someone like to make a motion to continue that application to the March 19th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Okay, so those items will not be heard and off the agenda for tonight. We'll move right ahead with design review applications by consent. In your, in the agenda, we have items 5A through 5H. We do these by consent, which means the board has reviewed them, taken into consideration any architectural design review comments and concerns. We approve all of those by consent. Don't pull them out one by one to read them into the record unless somebody wants to pull one out. One has been pulled out. Item 5C, Sandal Napa at 263 South Main Street has been pulled from the consent agenda. Any member of the audience has any concerns about any of these applications under 5A through 5H? If not, would someone like to make a motion to approve the items under the consent agenda with exception of 5C, right? 5C, yep. Which has been pulled out.
Second.
Motion has been made and second. Just for the record, this is an these will be with architectural design review comments. We got a motion and a second. That doesn't change anything, right? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Let's read item 5C into the agenda if we could.
Okay. Sandal Napa and Ethos Sign Company on behalf of Automotive Supply Associates, Inc. requests architectural design review approval for a replacement 128 square foot non-illuminated tenant panel to replace an existing tenant panel in an existing pylon sign. at 263 South Main Street in the Urban Transitional and Opportunity Corridor Performance Districts.
Okay, and the board does have images of a revised plan set that was given to us tonight with a little bit clearer, well, I guess it's no clearer, I guess it just breaks up a little bit of the sign into different sections, oh, excuse me, from 4 sections to 2 sections, building 1 and building 2. Alex, could you give us a quick update on what precipitated the design change?
It was something that we received today. It wasn't necessarily requested by staff. They did address some of the ADR recommendations for you, what's that? Which was essentially just to ensure that all the text, font size, colors, styles are consistent throughout the sign, as well as future tenants. The signs that was submitted today it was in staff's opinion different enough that we wanted to provide it to you so that you approve what they submitted today instead of what was on the agenda packet.
Do you know, are these going to be like slide-in pieces of plastic, or is this all, there's an awful lot of businesses here, and assuming that, they'll some of them will be there a while, some of them aren't going to be there a while, but all of a sudden one changes, and are they going to be able to replace each individual name, or are they going to be able to have to replace the entire panel?
The intention, from what I remember, is that individual tenant names will come and go and we'll be able to replace. That's kind of what I recall when they presented.
That's what I wanted to hear, yeah, okay. Okay. Comments, questions, concerns from the board? Jeff?
I only have one. The image we have tonight doesn't have a dimension on the height. It's got the little red line like they meant to show it.
Looks like
but
it was cut
doesn't.
off, yeah.
Do we know, is it going to be the same height as the other one, or is it changing in height in any way?
Not that I'm aware of. The sign is limited in what they can do to keep their legal non-conforming status. If you're concerned, you could, as part of your motion, I have potential drafted language to address this paper, and you could approve it with the understanding that the sign height will be this panel will be 16 feet in height.
5 feet off the ground, so the 5 feet is not on
21 feet to the total
Yeah.
height, is what you told me.
So the 5 feet is not on the picture in your packet. There's a 5 foot on the left that's on the
Yeah, no,
picture here.
I see that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just there's no height to the right, so.
Yep.
Okay.
So we can certainly make that as part of the motion, 16-foot panel, 5 foot height off the ground, 8 feet in width, 8 feet in width.
I would just say no, yeah, whatever, if it has to be no
Yep.
higher than the existing one to keep it non-conforming.
Okay. Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? No? Do you have some revised language for us then?
If you wanted to, you could consider approving the application as presented during the public hearing on December 18th, 2024, with the understanding that only the name of tenants shall be placed in the white boxes on the sign in a size, spacing, and font consistent with the character of the sign and this approval, and with the additional understanding that the panel will be 5 feet off the ground, 16 feet tall, for a total height of 21 feet.
Okay, that sounds good. Would someone like to make a motion to approve that as submitted, as written, as Alex
So moved.
so eloquently gave us some information on?
So moved.
All right, motion's been made. We have a second? Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, so that one is good to go. All right, let's move on. Oops. Moves us into the public hearing section of our meeting tonight. So let's get rolling on that. Design review applications, item 6A. Could you read that into the record?
Sure. Jigme Giesing, on behalf of Remy's Block LLC and New Everest, Momo and Curry, request an architectural design review approval for a new 6 square foot internally illuminated building wall sign at 156 North Main Street in the Central Business Performance District.
All right. Any staff update on this, or we can talk to the applicant? That's fine.
Yeah, I think that would go. They've gone back and forth with staff about locations, things like that. One recommendation, the revision provided by the applicant in your agenda addresses, I think, 2 of the 3 architectural design review recommended conditions of approval. The one that is not, was not revised was the location, and one of the reasons upon further review, where they wanted to move it ended up being like painted glass instead of structural. So instead they've proportioned the sign, resized it, and put it over the door for your approval tonight.
Okay, and ADR's seen that?
ADR has not seen this revision.
Okay.
So you have what went before ADR as the application, and then you have a revised sign in your agenda.
All right, so just for the record, in your packet, you've got the application, which is the first item on my Granicus package, and then the 24-079 revised sign is the third item in the packet, which is marketably different than the first item. Okay, welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record.
Kendra Price from Signorama.
All right, tell us about this sign odyssey.
So Alec took the words right out of my mouth. He agreed on the differences for two of the differences. The only one that we did not agree with is the location. I personally, as a consumer and a production, prefer signs to be above the door. And the location that they wanted it, which looks like it was to the window to the left of this, I think it was right here. I believe it was recommended that it would be placed here, and that is glass, and we can't exactly screw into glass.
Yep. So there's no sign there now, right?
Correct.
There was a sign before. Was it a blade sign?
I believe so. I believe it was a.
And that's
blade
gone?
sign. Correct.
So the only sign for this business is going to be above the door.
Correct.
Okay. I can't believe, did Architectural Design Review have any comments or questions about the O's and the U and the description of the two words? Because that was my first thought was it's hard to
They
read.
said to keep it.
What's that?
They said to keep it.
So in the inversion of this, which is what it was, it
It was blue and white.
was blue and white, so it was the opposite
Reverse.
of what you're seeing
Right.
today. So even the dumpling was difficult to see, so that was one of the reasons.
Ah, that's a dumpling. Okay.
Yeah,
dumpling.
so so that was one, and we felt like it could pop better, being that the white type on the blue background was easier to see, and I do agree with that as well, even today. But what's different is that the U for curry is not popping as much as, so as you can tell from a distance, it just says C and then a blank RRY. So that'd be,
Chance to
Fill it
beef
in
up
white.
that stroke at all on
Yeah,
the
we
bowl,
could-
so the bowl does show a
just
little,
Or fill it in with white
Or
or
fill it,
something
yeah.
somehow.
or fill it with white.
Yeah.
yeah.
Is this an OPEG white if it's internally illuminated?
It should be like clear. It would be white, opaque.
Opaque.
But it would be, not frosted, but not a flat white, not a complete clear, so somewhere in between the two.
Opaque's a good word.
Okay. We've had these issues like where we keep.
Opaque.
Yep.
Okay, so with some modification to the curry bowl to make it readable from 50 feet, that would be great.
Okay.
Any other concerns? And dumplings, now I know.
Now you're gonna go.
There you go. Been to all the other ones that have been there, so I gotta go
It
to
was
that
a
one.
bowl of curry. I didn't think it was.
Okay, any other questions or concerns? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? No? Comments from staff?
One question is if
Gonna look to the
you
left.
certainly, I'd recommend that as part of your motion that you approve the 2024-079 revised sign dated December 11, 2024.
Yep.
So we know what we're approving, and then make it clear suggestions or conditions related to the
Okay.
curry bowl.
So again, we've got the recommendation from staff that we recognize that this is the revised sign from 1211, you said?
Yep.
1211 revision that's in your packet is what we're talking about. The only revision I'd recommend would be the beefing up of the curry bowl and making it a little more visible. Any other recommendations? Beefing up the curry bowl. That wasn't missed. Good,
It's not the
good
recipe I
catch.
think that
Good
they have in
catch,
mind, but yeah.
Counselor Todd. Okay, I'll make that motion that we approve the application with those recommendations and again with the revised sign from the 1211 packet.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You are good to go.
Very
Good
much.
luck.
By the way, this pen's dead.
Pen's dead. You can have it.
Okay.
Hit it, the garbage can on the way out. Okay, 6B, we'll read that into the record. Vantage signs, wasn't that? No? Two different, yeah, 6B.
Signorama.
Advantage Signs on behalf of 721 Beach Street Realty Trust, Campbell Daniel J. Trustee in Capital Estates, requests architectural design review approval for a replacement 13.41 square foot externally illuminated panel to replace an existing externally illuminated panel in an existing freestanding sign at 81 Fisherville Road in the Urban Transitional District.
Existing. All right. Is the applicant here? No. Okay, and again, we've got an application, we've got a revised sign as well in here, so give us a little staff update on this one and why it was pulled.
Sure. The notable difference is in the revised sign, the applicant added the address of the building, so we wanted to have that. That did not go before ADR that way.
Okay.
So the sign is a little bit different, so we wanted that to be made clear for your consideration. Should you make a motion for approval, I'd recommend you approve the 2024-082 revised sign dated November 12th, 2024, with the revision date of December 4th, 2024. So we know what we're talking about.
December 4th.
Was the revision date, yes.
Okay. Questions, comments, concerns from the board? Anybody have any issues with that sign? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? No? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Would someone like to make a motion to approve or deny or approve the sign as submitted, again, with the revisions 2024-082 revised sign with a December 4th revision date? Would someone like to make a motion to approve that sign as submitted?
I make a motion to approve that sign is complete.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. All right, now we move on to our site plan subdivisions and conditional use permits. And again, if anybody came in late, 7A, 7B, 7C, 7D will not be heard tonight. So we will move on to item 7E. You could read that into the record.
Wilcox and Barton, on behalf of the Arts Alley LLC and 20 South Main Street LLC, request approval for a major condominium subdivision and certain waivers from the subdivision regulations for a 4-unit condominium subdivision with 2 units in the Arts Alley building. 1 unit is the proposed, which is actually there, diner car building, and the 4th unit being the renovated carriage house to be known as Duke's at 20 South Main Street, 20.5 South Main Street, and 22 South Main Street in the Central Business Performance District. And before we say anything, this is a major subdivision which by the regulations requires the 2 steps. This normally would be the determination of completeness, setting the public hearing for next month. The applicant requested a waiver of that 2-step process to have the determination of completeness tonight, followed by the public hearing tonight. So the first thing that we need to do before we do the determination of completeness is a motion to approve the waiver.
All right, staff has found the application complete. Not a development of regional impact?
Yep.
Okay, with the recommendation to do the 2-step process for determining complete and not a development of regional impact and opening a public hearing on the same night. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and open the public hearing?
I will.
Second.
Got an I will and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, so we are on the record with a public hearing. Welcome back to the table. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
If you could state your name for the record.
Erin Lambert with Wilcox and Barton. Thank you very much for approving the waiver to have the public hearing this evening. We appreciate it.
Very welcome. Tell us about what's changing. We can see what's changing.
I know. So if anyone's been down South Main Street in a while, you've noticed a lot of progress. So what's before you tonight is basically a land condominium, which under the city regulations is considered a major subdivision. And so all of the changes, all of the improvements that are going to be built were all approved through the site plan process for the Arts Alley project. The carriage house in the rear went through architectural design review, but it didn't meet the threshold for coming before you as a planning board. So what will happen is two lots will be merged, and a land condominium assigning ownership and responsibility of the buildings and the land is what's proposed. So within the Arts Alley building, the first floor will be Unit 1, that would be the Friendly Toast. The second floor will be Unit 2. Did this turn off? I apologize. Will be Unit 2. The diner that's now on the site will be Unit 3. Duke's, the former carriage house in the rear, will be Unit 4. So the condo documents then assign responsibility and access for limited common areas, who is responsible for maintaining each utility, snow plowing, trash removal, those type of items. Everything that was submitted to you is current. One change we did pick up on recently was there's a bathroom on the rear of the building. It's on the first floor. It's actually the bathroom for the diner. On the plans that were submitted, it's assigned as limited common area for units 2, 3, and 4. It will only be for unit 3. So I have a plan that I'll resubmit that has that change on it. I just wanted to wait and see if there were any other conditions or changes from tonight, and I'll submit that revised plan. So it just changes who has access to that restroom.
It's access from the outside?
It is access from the outside, exactly.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Pretty clear.
Yeah, it looks pretty clear. Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? Moving right along. All right, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you, appreciate your time.
Okay, we will use our findings of fact, the information that's provided in the staff reports, the applicant's submission materials, and the public testimony we heard tonight from the applicant as our findings of fact, and we'll move right into 8.2. Would someone like to make a motion to grant the waiver request below as listed in sections of the subdivision regulations using the criteria of RSA 674-36-2 and 2 and section 3508 of the subdivision regulations and no address? I'm not going to list them here, but they list topography, lighting, tabulations, plan scale, municipal sewer, municipal water supply construction plans, and then again down through 1704, 17041, 17043, and 17045, acceptable water metering and water service. Would someone like to make a motion to grant all of those waiver requests as outlined below?
So move.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 8.3 in the packet is to grant major subdivision approval for the condominium subdivision of 20 and a half, 22 South Main Street as submitted, subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions, and those are outlined in precedent conditions 1 through 6, subsequent conditions 1 through 17. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that major subdivision approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded. Any further? Yep.
Aaron mentioned resubmitting with that bathroom on there. Should we add that in?
Should that be added in, Alec or Anne Marie, as a condition?
Added in as a precedent condition.
A precedent condition
So it'd be
with revised plans
condition number
regarding
7.
the bathroom access as item 7 in the precedent conditions. Thank you for that catch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Before we close that up, I just want to make sure that when I took the motion in the second before the precedent conditions, that doesn't change anything. We still have a valid motion and a valid second. Okay, thank you. Should have caught that before, but okay, I think that's it, right? Yeah, that's it. So thank you. You're all set. Good luck. Be putting up the steel next week, right?
Thought it was good. So we went to shorter.
It was quite something watching that diner get moved in.
All the steel's already up. All right, let's read item 7F into the record.
Christine Gray and Lorero Engineering Associates, Inc.
Close.
On behalf of 128 Airport Road LLC, request approvals for a minor site plan application and certain waivers from the site plan regulations for construction of a new 4,000 square foot outdoor storage yard and associated site improvements to a developed site at 128 Airport Road in the Industrial District.
All right. Let's get a quick staff update on this, if we could.
Very good. This project is pretty straightforward. As I said, the site is developed, the building is there, the landscaping is there, the parking lot is there, it just doesn't have striping. So what they're doing here is they're adding a 4,000 square foot outdoor storage area, and that triggers site plan review. So they worked with staff to have a very robust, complete application. I appreciate all of their hard work on that. So everything looks good. It complies with the zoning ordinance, and it's good to go.
All right. Welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record.
All right, good evening. My name is Christine Gray, professional engineer, Lorero Engineering Associates. Thank you for having me
How
tonight.
do you say the name again?
Lorero.
Lorero. You were close.
Yeah.
No, you did very well.
All right. Tell us a little bit about the project.
Right, so we are here tonight to seek approval on the minor site application for 128 Airport Road. Something to note is a voluntary lot merger is on record with the city for 128 Airport Road and Airport Road, so we are abiding by all setback requirements. Something to note, the building, driveway, and parking lot will remain as is, with the exception of a small 50 square foot area where we will be repairing the bituminous concrete. It's just a little dilapidated at the northwest corner of the building. We are requesting a 4,000 square foot bituminous concrete wear yard at the rear of the building. This will be screened to the east side with an 8-foot vinyl fence, and there will also be a 12-foot vinyl fence as well. This will be used to store ATVs, boats, cage traps, duck traps, trailers, field equipment, shed, and a pickup truck. Screening along the western, northern, and southern side will be chain link fence. And as Anne Marie had mentioned previously, the parking spaces will be restriped. So the requirement is 25 total parking spaces, not including any loading, and 2 ADA spaces. We are proposing 36 regular spaces, 2 ADA, and 7 compact for a total of 45 spaces. The site plan also includes a new dumpster pad. This will have 8-foot vinyl fencing as screening. The driveway will be a one-way traffic circulation. We do have pavement marking and the required signage to make this very clear to all those driving on the area. Along the perimeter of the site, we have indicated there's plenty of snow storage. As for ADA accessibility, there is a ramp at the main entrance. This is along the northern side. And at the main entrance, there's going to be a 3-foot wide bituminous concrete walkway at 2% slope, and this will connect to the future sidewalk that Concord will be installing. Existing signage at the front of the building will remain and be recircuited. There is some lighting, and that's what's going to be recircuited. As for drainage, due to the increase in impervious, we will be placing a 4-foot wide grass swale and a retention basin. This abides by the requirements for no increase in peak discharges for 2 and 10-year storm events. And other things to note, the existing conditions plan was completed by GPI, New Hampshire licensed surveyor, and landscaping was completed by Tia Moran, also a licensed landscape architect. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, and you might have said it, or it was in the packet and I missed it, but what's the storage area going to be used for?
Yes, no problem. So it will be used for ATVs, boats, cage traps, duck traps, bear traps, trailers, field equipment, shed, and a pickup truck. The client will be USDA, so this will be lab, office use, and that's what they plan on storing there.
Okay. Any concerns runoff? I'm just thinking runoff concerns and oil leakage and other contaminants that get it onto the pad. I know is there fairly steep grade here in the back?
We don't have any concerns with
Okay.
any leakage.
Okay, well, that's good that you don't have any concerns. Is there anything that's being done to mitigate it if there are issues? I mean, any drainage, or is it sloped, or where does runoff, where does
A spill kit, something?
spill kit, yeah, where do things go if so is it going to be completely flat?
No, this is pitched 2% towards the swale. That is something that we could include on our plans. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, and I saw it somewhere else here, is temporary construction, so you're going to be returning that space that's being disturbed. There's no wetland issues, no concerns with wetland, right? No, okay. Any other questions, Jeff?
I do have a few. You said, I know a lot of times when we have site plans come back in like this that are non-conforming, that we've, as part of it, brought them up to code. And I'm looking at a couple things like driveway widths.
That's your prerogative. It's not required because it is non-conforming and
Okay.
they are not creating any new non-conformities and they aren't increasing any existing non-conformities. So it's allowed to remain.
Okay. So then I guess my only things really would be that the sidewalk shown is 3 feet, we require 5. So that'll have to be adjusted. So from your building out to the street, it'll have to be at 5. And since we need these compact spaces, some of them are fairly tight, you need to have signage indicating the compact, so that somebody pulling in will understand that that is designated as compact.
Yes, no problem, we can add that in.
And I know a lot of times facilities actually include flanking do not enter signs on the exit, and they angle them a little bit, so depending on which direction you're coming from, you can see them. Because you have just the one on one side.
We do show exit only and do not enter on the exit side.
Right, but it's not on both sides of that driveway. So depending on if the signs were angled at all, somebody from one direction or the other may not see till they're already turning in and it's too late.
Understood, no problem at all, we can add that in.
Great. That's it?
Any signage?
No, there will be no new signage.
Okay.
There's
Like-
an existing sign.
An
there now.
existing sign, yeah, so we don't have to change that. Lighting's not gonna change. Pad gonna be lit?
Yes, there are 2 new lights. We submitted new drawings that addressed staff comments earlier today. So they're not shown on the drawings we have here, but I did submit them on the portal.
Okay, no concerns with those from staff? I don't think.
I
haven't
haven't
even
had a
looked at 'em.
chance to review anything.
Okay, so
It was-
normal things for approval would fall into that, full
there were-
cutoff and.
Yeah, there's a number of
Are they
conditions.
downlit now instead of
Well,
uplit?
the lighting plan didn't meet the foot candles, so that was one of the conditions, and the opaque fence didn't meet the requirements, and they weren't showing the sidewalk, and so, yeah, there were a number of conditions.
Okay, but specifically the lighting though, I know existing is uplit. Have they changed that to a downlit as part of it?
I don't know.
So existing, we won't make them change the existing
Right.
But she said they're putting new lighting in, so if
New
we're
lighting
putting
in the-
new lighting, we have
in
the
the back.
ability to
in the
suggest.
back.
I thought she said the front was being rewired.
That is just the signage, lighting on the signage.
Correct.
The wall packs on the building will remain as is. We're adding 5 downward lights, light poles in the parking lot, and 2 additional downward lights in the ware yard.
Right. What is this, how is this front sign being lit? Because today it's currently uplit from the ground.
Yes, so that's gonna remain as is. We're just recircuiting and adding in new lights.
Kind of, we're back to that whole,
Yeah,
do we like,
yeah.
I mean, I know we standardly like them downlit.
Yep.
Is that a possibility, if you're redoing that sign, to make them downlit instead of uplit?
Sure.
All right, thank you.
There you go. So just clarification, 5-foot sidewalks, compact car signage.
And
You're okay
down-
with the in and out signage on the street?
Yeah, the one she was gonna add, the
And
extra do
then
not enter.
lighting
Yep.
and lighting adjustments. Good with that, okay?
Yes.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Staff, any updates, comments, questions? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? Sorry.
Move us to this side, we're all screwed
Yeah,
up.
everything's off kilter. All the loud talkers are over here now instead of over here. Okay, thank you very much. We'll close
Who's gonna
public
talk to
hearings.
you
You
like
can step back. So in your staff report. Okay. Scrolling through here to get to 8.1. So again, using our findings of fact is the information that we have in our packets. The materials that the applicant submitted, the updated materials that will be coming with, or will be submitted as well, and the testimony we heard tonight. We'll use that as our findings of fact to grant any approvals as we go forward. So let's look at 8.2 is to grant site plan approval for a new 4,000 square foot outdoor storage yard subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions, and those are outlined in precedent conditions 1A through S, and 2, 3, and 4. Subsequent conditions 1, 2, 3, 4 through 15. Any additions or changes?
The four we just listed.
4 items we just
So
listed.
do we want
which
to
were
lump them all in T or list them as T, U, V, and X?
Precedent?
We can, yeah, it would all be, let's make them all,
We could put them in
Precedent
as
number one, T.
we could put T and then just lump them
Yeah.
all in together.
lump
So
them all in
T,
as
so it'll be
T.
the 5-foot sidewalk, the compact car, signs, the extra do not enter, and the downlit
Yep.
on the,
And
uh,
wasn't there something that someone said about
The
the
signs on the
Oh,
entry.
the paving?
yeah, some
on
sort
the-
of, they'll address the Rich's concern
So,
with
yeah,
potential leaks of fuel
Right. With either
escaping the
some
pad, whether,
pads or something to
Some-
address potential leaks.
and that I'd say maybe with, in discussion with engineering. So we don't have to answer it tonight, but engineering can sort that out.
Council Todd?
Yeah, just before we get into this, did we need to determine this application complete? Did we do that, or did I miss that? Or was I blanking out? Or-
I wondered, I was gonna ask.
I'm not sure that we
because I
did.
didn't hear it. Yeah, I don't
If it
think
was
you
last
did.
month, but I don't remember.
No, we
No.
didn't.
It's on my list of things to do, and I went right over it.
Okay.
I forgot about it.
Okay, so can we do it now?
Yeah, make
We
it
have to make her
now.
come back up and do a public hearing again? Thank you.
I feel like when Willy Wonka, when he goes, strike that, back up,
So
reverse.
we missed our determination of completeness and not a development of regional impact. Staff has determined the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and set the public hearing for tonight. Would someone like to make a motion to determine the application complete and not a development of regional impact? Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, so we'll fast forward through the public hearing.
Close the
Just
public
at the
hearing.
public hearing, so fast forward on your YouTube or your Concord TV. And we have added item T, right, to the precedent conditions. So I'll be looking for a motion to,
Approve precedent conditions.
is it a major site plan?
It's minor.
Minor site plan, so it doesn't say it. Grant site plan approval. That's what I'm looking for. Grant minor site plan approval as outlined with the precedent conditions and subsequent conditions as we've discussed.
So moved.
Motion has been made
Second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're all set. Thank you. Have a good night. All right, that moves us on to other business. I don't think there's any other business, so we can have a motion to adjourn? Kidding. There's hardly anybody left. All right, let's read item 8A into the record if we could.
I thought 8A got moved.
No, 8A is here and present.
Let's try.
Sorry, the what?
They're on their way up.
Gallagher, Callahan, and Gartrell.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Onyx.
Got them confused.
Steeplegate Concord LLC and Onyx Regal Concord LLC request discussion with the planning board for a comprehensive development plan design and layout for mixed-use development at 270 Loudon Road and 282 Loudon Road in the Gateway Performance District. Just want to reiterate, this is not a public hearing. It's just comments may be received from everyone. There can be discussion. Everything that's said is non-binding, both by the applicant and by the planning board.
And just again, it's not a public hearing, but if there's somebody from the public that wants to speak, they're more than welcome to once we're done. Yep. Okay, welcome to the table. If you could state your names for the record.
This is backwards. Is it opposites day?
I know it. Yeah, well, now they moved the stinking thing over here, and I don't know.
Do you rent that out for football?
Yeah, no kidding.
For your record, I'm Ari Pollock at the Gallagher firm here in town for the applicant, Onyx Partners Limited, and Onyx through its affiliates, the Onyx Steeplegate, Onyx Regal, and now Onyx TD, more on that in a moment, is the redeveloper of both the Steeplegate Mall property and Regal Cinemas property, as you know them in East Concord. Joining me this evening from Onyx is Doug Richardson, who is seated right behind me, the Executive Vice President of Development for Onyx, and to my far left is Ian McKinnon of Jones and Beach, and his group is providing civil and site engineering, and to my immediate left is Robert Del Salvio of Embark, who is providing our architectural elements and design. You will recall, am I doing something wrong? Okay. You will recall that we visited the planning board last year to launch discussions of our comprehensive development plan, and that we also visited last July to amend the site plan to get a jump start on some building demolition. The purpose of that amendment being to address some vandalism and public safety concerns on the property. We've also discussed our need for zoning relief, which then took the form of multiple applications to the zoning board for subjects such as building height, lot coverage, parking, addressing some technical layouts of what is proposed to be the Costco lot and its improvements. We had those on our conceptual drawings when we first visited with you, but now we can tell you that as a result of the variances that we received, they are conforming. We did receive those variances. They were complicated, and they were then the subject of an appeal from an abutting party that caused the matter to rest in court for some period. They objected to all forms of relief, largely for leverage purposes, but nonetheless, it stuck a foot in the door, and we were off to court. And despite the approvals, it stalled out until we could reach a mutual resolution and resolve things. And so in the end, Onyx purchased the abutting property to neutralize those objections, to solidify ownership of the areas of the mall that are being redeveloped, and the cases have been, they were filed against the city. We intervened, and the cases have now been settled and dismissed. And so what does that mean for all of us? It means that we can really focus on planning without those items in our way or stuck in suspense. And if I can digress for one brief moment, this, and it's relevant not so much to this application, but all applications. The zoning example of this application and its approvals from the ZBA and the appeals really highlight the challenges that are being created by a zoning ordinance that's dated, overly detailed, and ultimately just too rigid. It highlights how using variances to justify relief create opportunities for abutting owners to block projects that are otherwise desirable for the community. So, I'll conclude my public service announcement by sharing that I think this is why the process of examining and amending the ordinance is critical, and why the current efforts to modernize and replace are really so important to the community. But it doesn't do anything to solve the problems of Onyx, and they solve them for themselves. So congratulations to Onyx, and food for thought to the rest of us. Enough with my digression. With the recent dismissal of the zoning appeals, our path to resume active planning is now back open. Recently, we've held a few meetings with city staff to re-engage the planning process with some vigor. For example, our traffic study was commissioned, scoped and commissioned long ago. It's actually already been submitted, it's been peer reviewed, and it's been sent back to the traffic engineers for some supplemental analysis. That is not unusual. It's not a commentary on its content or value. It's more a part of the process as the city's peer review team, the city's staff, and the state's reviewers all weigh in and want to make sure that the appropriate scrutiny is applied. This design review consultation tonight is another step. It's another next step. It's kickstarting an active planning process, which is to say you'll be seeing more of us. I want to turn things over to Ian to give you a quick update on what site program changes have been made as the conversation has rolled forward, and then to Robert, who will share some pretty pictures that he has prepared, some of which are repeats and some of which are updated. As you know, the purpose of design review is to solicit your non-binding feedback. This is a circle of trust conversation where you can tell us what you like and don't like, and we can take it under advisement and do something about it or ignore you. But the point here is to do something about it so that when we are ready to return in early 2025, we'll come back with something that reflects your input and sets us up for an efficient review. And maybe here's your soundbite. As you know, Concord's long stated its desire to integrate housing with mixed-use retail projects, especially in its performance and gateway districts. This project is frankly our biggest and best chance, and it offers an amount of housing that can truly be transformative. It's that rarest of opportunity to move a distressed and underperforming property forward in a way that can benefit not only the city and its residents, but also the surrounding region. And bringing nationally recognized retailers to the project helps anchor the development and further elevates Concord as a regional retail destination. The large housing element anchors the retail by providing built-in customers and features a mix of both market rate and workforce housing. And it's important to make sure that that's understood. The program has evolved to have a nice workforce housing element as well. So I'll thank you for listening to me and turn it over to Ian and then Robert to give you some updates. And then we very much do want your input and your observations. Thank you.
Good evening again. Ian McKim with Jones Beach Engineers. So again, it's been a little while. February, I believe, was the last time we were before you, really the comprehensive development stage. So again, just to orient ourselves with the plan on the screen, this plan is oriented north, so we have Loudon Road framing the west side of the project, Diamante Drive on the south, and Sheep Davis on the east. The project, if you look at this, you might say, well, it looks exactly the same as I saw it before, and that's likely just because of the scale of the project. Much of it is the same. The big components are we're essentially carving out the project still into a multi-lot subdivision, which will be one of the applications submitted to the city in conjunction with the site plans. And a big component of that is we are still planning for what is currently called Road Number 1 for the sake of simplicity, which travels east-west from Loudon Road to Sheep Davis Road, and then perpendicular to that, connecting with Diamante Drive, Road 2. These are anticipated to be designed to city standards. Very recently, we submitted the preliminary design that we have for these roadways to the city and had our first meeting with city engineering staff and their consultants. And certainly we'll begin the process of coordinating some complicated public utilities passing through the existing property, but also brand new roadways with city utilities. And then just working north to south, so the lot 39, as many of us know, is the existing Regal site. That is still proposed to be a multi-tenant, commercial anchored, mostly retail with a service use up front. I think last time we were before you, it was a potential restaurant use with drive-through. It's now transitioned to likely a service use, potentially bank. And so that is still a self-parked lot. It will have a connection to Roadway 1, but also still its primary driveway will exist on Loudon Road, same exact location as the Regal site today. The site design for this component of the project has been pretty well developed to the point that we have preliminary plans that we've worked with the developer to work with contractors and get some good initial feedback. Part of the reason for that is that there's a desire to raise the elevation of this site. As we're all aware, most of us are aware, it sits down quite a bit from Loudon Road, so we do anticipate bringing up the base elevation of this site. Much of that fill actually will come from the rest of the Steeplegate site because the site is currently crowned. So we anticipate trying to generate most of the fill we need right from the interior to the project. And if we move to the south side of Road 1, this is still the proposed wholesale retail that's been before the board for quite some time, and their engineer will be moving forward in conjunction with us to finish the site plan design and coordinate the stormwater design for the whole project with us. And then as we move east, we get into what is considered R1, 2, and 3, the residential structures. These are, again, R1, which is the large, for lack of a better term, circular. I'll let Rob get more into the details of that. Largest residential structure on the property. R2 is just to the south. R2 is unique where, because of its proximity to some of the existing structures and some existing retail and proposed retail, it will have likely a ground floor commercial component. That's the plan right now, with residential above. And then we have currently the plan for 2 small retail or commercial spaces fronting on Diamante Drive. And then the last new structure planned at this time is what we deem R3. It's going to be on its own parcel, and that would also be a residential structure with no commercial component planned at this time. As you can see, there's 2 structures down here, kind of framed in. That is the existing trampoline park, and then next to it, I believe was the now vacant Bonton. That's anticipated to be where the Zoo Health Club would relocate on the project. And then lastly, we do have the existing J.C. Penney's, which will remain for some time. The last 2 pieces for the sake.
Quick question: is TD Bank staying there?
Yep. So
that's going to stay consistent. Okay,
correct. So
The owner of the pad has changed, but the tenant has not.
Okay, so the
And
tenant
they
is
have a
staying.
lease and they will remain.
Yep. And so that lot, the TD Bank and the Applebee's, those lots are going to be deemed part of the CDP process, because as part of the subdivision, we will be proposing some changes to their lot line in many ways to try and clean up the lot lines. Although we don't have ownership of the Applebee's unit, we have the obligation of moving forward with kind of cleaning up the lot lines in conjunction with our property. So those tenants will remain the same. There might be some small site improvements if we have to work on driveway connections, but what you see today should remain, is planned to remain. And so, like I said, at this point, we've had numerous meetings with the city, both on just the general staff side and engineering, and we anticipate continuing that towards full site plan applications for all of these lots, plus continuing to work with the city on the roadways. So, and we package that all together with one large, giant submission.
We actually have scheduled weekly check-ins with both planning and engineering, just for the purpose of keeping a good pace to making our submissions. And so big projects have big lists of things to deal with. This one's a big one, and staff has been very generous with their time.
All right, with that, I'd say probably hand over to Rob. You want to start at the top there?
Yeah, good.
Pretty picture guy.
Yeah.
Best for last.
Except the numbers are wrong on your buildings.
So it's pretty clear from the slide, but all the purple blue colors are all the commercial retail buildings, of which there are 4 or 5, depending on how you count them. The yellow buildings are the residential buildings, and the 3 gray buildings are the sort of remnant components of the existing mall building. So that mall building really stretches, maybe you can just show on the screen, from the far right-hand side, swoops down and around. So the bulk of the mall will be demolished, and those 3 pads buildings actually will remain in place. So as Ian went through, there are 3 residential buildings. Starting at the top, I'll just give you some statistics on that one. So that's a 4-story building, slab on grade, with residential units on the ground floor. In one of the earlier iterations that we may have shown you almost a year ago now, we had no parking beneath the buildings. We surface parked the entire project. We're falling short a little bit on the parking count, but at the same time, we're eating up a lot of potential green space. So by getting parking under the buildings, we not only got to the parking count we needed, but we were able to save some green space, and you'll start to see that as we look through some of the buildings. So R1 has 120 apartments in it. It's about 140,000 square feet altogether. It's 4 stories and about 48 feet. Coming down to the middle building, which is actually R3, not R2. So that building is sort of a donut, as you can see. The courtyard's very wide there, and in that courtyard, that will feature a lot of the amenity space for the residents. We'll see another plan momentarily. But there's a vehicular drive through the building, through the courtyard. So we'll knock out
more than one story. 2 stories of the first and second floor will be notched out, so more importantly, fire trucks can get through that connector in there. And vehicular access to the garage is in the top left corner of that building. You see there, thanks, Ian. So that's a 5-story building. As you move towards R1 down to the right, that's part of that is a 5-story building as well, and then the last bit of it steps down to 4 stories as you get closer to Diamante Drive. And that's the one residential building that does have commercial retail use on its ground floor. I mean, that will help energize that part of the site, potentially play off the other 2 retail pads that are just adjacent to that to the south. Next slide. So this looks at it.
I just want to clarify something for just a sec. So on our project sheets, we've got, it looks like R1
And R2
is the circular one. R2 was the one at the bottom, and R3 is the one at the top.
That is correct, yes.
That's correct. So R1 is the one in the middle, but didn't it just say R2 on that?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Oh, I'm
This
sorry.
is mislabeled.
Sorry for that.
Ian's drawings has it correctly.
So R1 has 310 units,
R1 has 310, that's correct, yep.
and parking will be under?
Under the building, below grade,
Okay,
and it's a 5-story building.
okay. Thank you, sorry for that.
So here is just a conventional 2-dimensional plan looking down at it. You can see in the case of R1, labeled R2 here, how that drive goes through the center of the building. But you can see off on the right-hand side, the right-hand courtyard portion of that is where we'll have a lot of the outdoor amenity space for the residents, be a pool, deck space, a fair amount of lawn space outside of the pool area. The entrance to that building is on the right-hand side, the right-hand leg of it, giving good vehicular visual connection as you pull in off of Sheep Davis. And then as you zoom back out, if you could. Yeah, if you just pan down a bit. So the next building, R2, labeled here R1, is the building that has retail at the ground floor facing the other 2 retail pods there. And here's another case where we were able to capture back a lot of green space in that courtyard by getting that parking below grade. So I think that was a win overall. Next slide. And just to look, before you go there, one of the other pieces that we're working with and trying to understand a little bit more about the water's edge and what we could do to improve the quality and the experience of creating an outdoor park along the water's edge there. That was always sort of a key component for us, and we're trying to use the sort of the terminus of this road and the walkway to resolve itself in the proposed park. So as we go through some of the subsequent slides, you'll start to see some of that, what the streetscape imagery would be like. So just a few images here, how we may plan to plant and improve the streetscape from having a planting zone or furnishing zone from the curb in, say, 4 feet or so before getting to the sidewalk, the actual sidewalk, and then to the face of the building. One of the other pieces that was a recent addition to the plan is some sort of sculptural element or sculpture garden, which will be off on the, if you go back to the previous site plan for a second, on the far left-hand side by Loudon Road. So that's meant to be some public amenity space, some sculpture type garden. So that's what's starting to be shown in some of that imagery in that next slide that we were just on. Go down to the next page. So this is just a slide showing what some of the amenity spaces would be like for the residents within that courtyard, that pool space. A pool, there's a dog walk area, there's outdoor amenity space for barbecue grills and so forth. And then some early thoughts on how we could improve the experience of being on the water, whether we can create a dock there, is there enough water level to support actual boating use in there? A lot of questions, but we're trying to find some way to make that a real amenity, not just for the residential unit, but for anybody walking down along Road 1. And then some other imagery about outdoor spaces and how we may design those in conjunction with landscaping. We have a fair amount of sidewalk around all the properties, so we think we can do a lot to allow for seating areas or actual event type spaces. And then some more landscape ideas, combination of pathways, how we may do some planting leading along the path, the walkway that gets down to the water body. And then just some other early imagery of what some of the buildings may start to look like. These are some of our projects, some of which are ours, some are others. Use of brick materials, some siding to give it a little bit more residential flair to it. In the case of the bottom right imagery, how we may introduce the retail in the one building, the R2 building, along the ground floor plane. Next slide.
Question. Can you identify your workforce housing units versus your market rate housing units, or are you mixing them?
At this point, we can't tell you where they're going to be. There'll be certainly some mixing, but right now the total unit count is 600, and what we're talking about is 60 of those 600 being workforce dedicated.
Okay, but you haven't identified those locations?
I haven't.
Yeah,
we have.
Yeah, we haven't laid out and divided these volumes yet into units to know exactly where they all are.
Thank you.
So there's some imagery of some of the projects that we're doing now, both actually in Dover, New Hampshire. But the use of brick, the use of different articulations of the facades to reduce the height of a 5-story building, as is the case in the bottom right. So we'll have some ground floor, either retail space or amenity space, topped with 3 stories of brick in some cases with another top floor. So different articulations and methods that we can employ here in this project to reduce the scale of the building and so forth. And this continues to some other work here. You can see how that addition of some brick in some key places will really help, give the building some permanence and also help reduce its scale. So that's where we are.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I'll let you keep talking, but I do want to make a point on the visuals. We see these a lot. We see these beautiful buildings with the swooping flower beds and the artistic pieces. Anything you can do to keep those in there in the long run is much appreciated. We see them a lot, then they fade out a little bit in the comprehensive development plan, and then the first iteration, maybe some of them are still there, but by the end of it, and whether it's Merchant's Way or whatever it was when we started on something, we don't see that come through to the end, and they'd be beautiful, and they got, like you've said, you're in a perfect scenario where you're wiping the slate clean. You want to build something like a Tuscan village where you just drive in and say, this is beautiful, and you've got the walking paths and you've got the areas, and it's not just big tall buildings, and the pushback's great. The different materials on the building to lower the scale is great and appreciated. The parking on those, I think R1, R2. Parking on R1 and R2 is below grade?
Yes, all 3, actually. All 3 buildings, R1, 2, and 3.
All 3 as well?
Yeah.
Combination.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a mix of surface and underground to help
Sure.
our ratios.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the existing buildings aren't losing parking as far as JCPenney's or the gym or any of that stuff? It's all kind of built into your equations, right?
Yeah, so we did go to the zoning board for some relief on parking. We justified what each use would require and how some of those are existing now and what their lived experience has been. And so we're working within the variances. The last thing we want to do is go back to the zoning board on something that they've already granted.
Absolutely. Okay. You have more?
Could I just make a quick comment
Yeah.
here before?
Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to emphasize what you just commented on, actually, just especially in light of the fact that this is an urban village setting. And so obviously, I mean, I think you're aware of that you're going to have people that are going to be out strolling, walking, wanting to go to the various establishments by foot or bike. And so I think, having that safe travel as well as having a lot of those featured amenities that we're looking at is going to be especially important here, so.
Yeah, I think the common theme of development helps. You feel like you're in a village that has synergy, and it has to obviously be attractive to attract people to live there, work there, and shop there. Right. And so, or go to the parks, and so there's as much in it for us as the community to make sure that it's, inviting. Those are pieces that add to cost and don't pay rent, and it's difficult sometimes to make it all pencil. But we feel we've got that balance at this point, and Robert's pictures are real. They're not things that we're looking to gain traction on and then steal away.
Thank you.
Just a couple of points on little nit things that aren't even appropriate at this point, but whatever the proposed building in the front of Regal, the Regal lot, proposed bank. Just think about movement around the lot. If you're gonna put a drive-through on the front of the bank, you know, I get it, why you'd want to do it, or maybe you wouldn't want to do it, but think about how people are coming through. If we can move them so the headlights aren't going right into the traffic that's coming towards you, so that, you know, point them that way, point them up on this scale. That's always appreciated. If you're bringing the lot up, you know, if it's right up to grade, obviously that's an issue. If it's not up to grade, then it's not going to be that big of a deal. And when I think about this lot in its current state today, and having driven by it for 40 years, you don't think of Sheep Davis Road as a primary point. Sheep Davis Road is going to be, I'm going to guess, 5 years after you build it, Sheep Davis Road is going to be the primary access for people coming into the lot, coming into Costco. They're going to avoid going on to Loudon Road. They're going to avoid coming off of 393, going down Loudon Road and taking a left into the lot. They're going to come down Sheep Davis Road and they're going to cut through the property. So just think about that in the grand scheme of things. I could be wrong, and VAI might tell you that, no, that's going to be this. But I'm telling you, if I'm going there, I'm going through Sheep Davis Road, and anybody that lives locally is probably going to do the same thing. And anybody coming out of town, coming up 393, they're going to be on Sheep Davis Road, and it's easier to take a right into the lot and get into the parking area, into the area. So R1, the big building, the circular type building, is closed above the drive. That you're going to have a drive-through lane underneath it, and there'll be apartments above that.
That's right, 3 floors of apartments today.
So again, I'm coming in from Sheep Davis Road. I come in up by the TD lot, and I come around. If I'm a visitor, do I park out behind existing trampoline park? I don't have a parking space. Do I park way down by R3 and walk up across the street into the lot? What's the visitor parking going to be?
You would park right where Ian has the arrow right now.
That's a bay of
That's a
spaces.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The space is there. Okay.
Yeah, I think we'd anticipate probably showing some reserve spaces for visitor, and I'm sure we'll. work
visitor
through
or potential renters coming to look at the property. Yeah.
Okay. Elevated buildings, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think I have a couple more questions.
And if you're coming in for the retail, I agree Sheep Davis is the likely entrance
Yeah.
point, but you're probably coming down DeMonte Drive.
You probably are. Yeah. You come into the lights at DeMonte Drive. They're going to be. Is there a set of lights by the TD now that's there that's
think
been
they took it
abandoned?
It got taken out by the DOT
They
because it was
they
so
were
long, but
abandoned.
it can go back in.
But it can go back. So what's that?
They will be reactivated as part of the traffic study.
Okay. And the existing light that's by TD is there another entrance on the other side of TD now?
No, the only curb cut on Sheep Davis is the existing driveway. It used to be signalized and is now not.
And it's where you're showing it
Yep.
coming out to the
Yeah, roughly right
to
there.
the
same
right as
side.
I'm looking at it from Sheep Davis.
Yep.
Okay.
That driveway, what we're showing is it's probably going to look very similar. It's really 2 lanes in, 2 lanes out.
Yeah.
Just based on the alignment, you're going to see that likely get rebuilt because we're going to be having to do utility improvements
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
So, but same exact cross sections you see today, 2 in, 2 out.
So how do we get you to talk to Walmart down the street and get them to do a little bit of rebuilding down the street? They're going to put a street light back in. They might as well put one down there as well. I mean, you're going to have one at Walmart as well, but that's a city issue. But
Yep. I was about to say that might fall on other people's to-do list.
couldn't hurt. I got Dina first, so let's have you, Dina. Just pull up a little bit so we can hear you.
Thank you.
The
Speaking-
throngs in the audience.
Yes, my voice is a little low. Speaking of utility, are you going to have any type of sustainable access solar panels, or are you relying solely on public utility for these projects, the residential particularly?
Yeah, at this point, we're on the grid. We haven't considered any type of a solar application. We needed a variance for height just for the apartment portion of the buildings, and we would have to go back to the zoning board to add height. So it would be a complicated lift at this point.
Thank you.
Okay, who do I get next? David?
Just for clarification, this is all rental. There is no private ownership in this project?
For the housing piece, that is
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Who do
I have
next?
a few, so I don't know if you want to go to others first.
Yeah, I just have a quick question about, in your experience with other projects similar to this, about the people visiting the retail establishments and then the traffic flow with the residential areas and how those coexist. How well do they, and what can you do? I'm just thinking about the residents and cut-throughs and things like that. So how does it work in other developments?
Yeah.
We all have seen it. You can, go ahead. You go first, Ian.
And to your point, it really comes down to each project is slightly unique. I think by what we're doing, where we have what we're calling Road 1, Road 2, your primary, again, anticipated to become city roadways, that gets you your motions between the lots. I think what you're kind of getting at, especially where we're maybe interacting more on this lower side with some residential, we've got existing retail and uses, is one of the elements that I forgot to touch upon is we are showing and has been reviewed by VAI and is recommended is a potential new driveway across from Target that would be only it would be a full access enter driveway from both directions of the Diamante, but a very exaggerated right out. We all know that intersection can be a little busy at times when the Target lot is busy. And would actually remove the existing driveway that's closer to Sheep Davis, which is also becomes a problem intersection when it was well used. So we're providing the access or egress closer to that area where they mix. And same thing on the new roadway 2, we're providing that access. So our thought is that, there's obviously a web of access parking, but I think specifically to the areas where you expect that mixing is that we're providing kind of a shorter distance to when I need to leave the property, or if I'm coming in, I'm not passing through the residential, providing easier opportunities to leave or get to those areas with vehicles. And I mean, I think that, what we've seen is, again, we're going with this for this mixed feeling is, I think we will see somebody coming, I want to go to this store, there's a restaurant. The hope is that they're going to park, and that because we talked about this with the zoning board with parking, we do anticipate a degree of shared parking, that if somebody comes here, they might park and go to 2 stores, and there's really no reason for them to get up and walk. There's a heavy push for sidewalks along all these roadways through the project to really focus that, it'll be easier to walk than try and get back in your car and move spaces between, even if it's from one lot to the other. So that's our goal right now. Yep.
So I have a quick question, and I'll let others talk, but on sheet 19 of the plans, you've got the parking spot, the parking allocation with some color coding. Again, building 1, the circle-shaped building, in the middle of that, you've got red outlines all around the whole right side of the lot for 297 spaces. Is that an aggregate of all of those spaces that are outlined in red? Is that how that's working? Yep. And then over to the right, you've got pink, 81 spaces, and then 231, 82 spaces under the building, 176 under, 100 spaces under. On the left side of the parcel, for the proposed Costco space, I don't see what the blue total is for all of that area. Or the red space. So just a little pick. So
Yep, sure.
So
I think it's in the table, but.
it might be.
Yeah, it's over here on the.
I'm not going to look that far in, but but just and again, you mentioned, Ari, there's some parking relief. You've already got parking relief. You're going to need to get some.
We've received it.
Perfect. And there's a gas station in the front, right?
Yes.
Okay. To Applebee's. Okay, sorry.
That gas is a portion, a part of Costco.
Yes. Yeah, that's part of their, whatever their condo plat will,
Part of their
piece will be, right?
Yep.
Okay. And the parking lot is too?
Yes.
Okay. Jeff?
Now,
Nope.
you want to go first?
Amanda?
I think I can wait until we see more definition of kind of the waterfront area, which was one of
It's
my.
a stretch to call it waterfront, really.
Well, so that's.
See, that's where I was going, it's just like the quality of it, we've all seen, for those of us that have driven past it in the summer, we see the algae grow, we see the swampy look, and to look at some of these, maybe a stretch, but Ian, you may be able to speak a little bit more to it, but I can, there.
And
Yeah.
let me,
Yeah.
Are you referring to the pond
The
that the
detention
city
pond,
owns?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
The detention pond
Well-
or the beaver?
It's
pond?
just, they showed some waterfront.
Yeah, I think I can touch on it. So yeah, I think that's it's essentially it's a wetland. I don't want to call
Yeah.
it a swamp because those are two different things, and I don't know if it technically meets that definition, but it almost entirely lies on that city parcel, and that's really all that it is, that parcel. And yeah, I grew up for years when it would flood, and then there's the years that we've seen it when it's dry. A lot of times depends on if they've taken care of the beaver activity or minimize that. There are things, I believe it was earlier this year, around the time that we came to the board for CDP, initially, we did meet with Concom, specifically the Trails Group, and there's interest in it, and we actually looked at, okay, what are our other connections within this area too, not just our parcels, but like we actually looked around the pond, we actually walked it to look at feasibility. And so I think we're going to need to go back to them first to see if it's truly feasible because there's a pretty large elevation change there. But we do think because it is city property and that there is hope there for its viability. As Doug mentioned, we're at this point we're looking at, is it possible to look at some form of aeration or something? You don't want to put too much work into it that in the end it doesn't end up being what you want it to be. But we are hopeful that we're still looking at options to make it more viable. If that means we need to get more involved into it, but
There's more to come.
Yeah, there's more to come because, number one, Trail Subcommittee would have to recommend approval. Conservation Commission would have to approve it, and they were on the fence.
Yeah, and then there's other
So the
things.
solicitor would have to probably weigh in on the liability of our property having a dock suddenly on it.
and we'd have to also get DES approval likely if we want to do any sort of man-made interference, aeration, something like that. That requires approval because it is jurisdictional wetland as well. So.
Well, that's, down the road.
So there's still a lot of things that we're looking at there that we do hope to be able to do something with it.
It's aspirational at this point. I mean, we had to
Yeah.
show something there. There is a water body there. It's largely a drainage feature, or at least over the years. It would be great. If it doesn't work, or the city doesn't want it, or the liabilities are too great, then we gave it the college try. But I do think it's something that those who rent there and who go there would enjoy if it's an improvement over what's there now. And it is some, opportunity to put in a public amenity, just like the sort of seating and gathering area we're talking about along Loudon Road. It may not be used by every resident, but it's nicer to have them than not.
Absolutely.
And if I can add one thing that I didn't touch upon before, but is important to note just in this entire project, because it is a redevelopment, we're really creating a blank slate for much of it. One of the sheets that is included in CDP, and certainly will with the following applications will be far more detail, is we're essentially taking the mall and the Regal property, which are the two largest components of it, that have, if I were to guess, maybe 5% of the area actually has some form of stormwater treatment. The actually only area is the out parcel parking that we're all aware of, kind of on the north side. Zero stormwater treatment. It seems like they just piped everything around, and many of you might not be aware, but at the south side of the pond, this site was probably likely one of the largest contributors to flow to that pond after storm events. Everything is funneled to one large, the biggest distribution box system I've ever seen down by the pond now. With these applications, there's a minimum requirement for treatment for alteration of terrain through the DES, but also the city has their own requirements. So we anticipate vast improvement to the stormwater quality coming off this. You think of something like Regal, where that lot just sheet flows off into the wetland now. We have to meet the requirements of curbing, closed drainage system, infiltration, detention, and treatment. So.
So don't get rid of the beavers yet if you want to have water.
So the hope is that we're going to help a little. Our hope is that we're helping with whatever runoff is heading there. And as we mentioned, there is a large city drain line that feeds from Loudon Road over to that same outfall. There's a kind of a meeting point. But our hope is that we're going to take this 60 plus acres of area and vastly improve the water quality coming off of it.
Good to hear. Okay? Just remember, we're not comprehensive development plan. Don't get too far into
No,
it.
no, I'm not. No. This is, looking at this, I looked at Road 1 specifically. You got a 30-foot wide road, okay, because you're proposing on-road bike lanes. Anybody ridden that road lately? It's a raceway, and you're gonna make it straighter, 30 feet wide. If you're gonna do anything, considering you have residential, I would strongly recommend you consider taking the bike lanes off the street and do a 10-foot wide shared use path on one side with appropriate crossings. And I think you also look at that potentially for Road 2 somehow to consider that, because you've got these residential uses, now you're mixing them into parking lots, all these entrances onto this road, and yet your bikes are totally forgotten.
Yeah, so they're not forgotten. What we're using basically is the templates for this
I
city
understand.
layout. And I don't disagree. I think it's a great suggestion. We're gonna have to take that to city staff and see what city staff's reaction is to that suggestion. So it's almost as if you're talking through us to others, and we'll carry the message.
They're right there, so they're hearing me. I'm just telling you, as an engineer and a
Appreciate it.
traffic engineer, I'm telling you, safety is gonna be my prime component. And to me, putting bike lanes on this road, it's not gonna be a safe endeavor with the way people, that's a cut through right now between Loudon Road and Sheep Davis Road, especially now the signal's gone. I also think you need to take a better look at your interconnection of your sidewalks through your site. Take a look at Merchant's Way. You've got a lot of areas where sidewalks dead end and don't really connect between the uses like you indicated.
Sure.
I don't see loading zones for the two retails, the 7500s and the one you have under the building, something to consider. And I really am not a big fan of the road under the building. You're gonna have a courtyard on one side and a pool amenities and all this other, and you have no connection between the two, no crosswalk, no nothing, and you're gonna have kids, people going back and forth. So that's just something to keep. I'm thinking about the intermixes. When you go around Tuscan Village, the sidewalks are really wide, they're very open, you interconnect between all the different uses. If that's the feel you're looking for, this really is not there yet, in my opinion, from that interconnectivity, safety, and whatnot. I'll be interested to see what VAI comes up with after. I was a little dismayed to see 38% of the traffic being shown going down Loudon Road. We have a great regional model, and I don't know if they talked to the regional planning agency about actually running the model and seeing where traffic would be, other than just using journey to work data to say where people are coming from. And the biggest, I think, downfall for us as the city with the mall is they always advertised it as exit 14, 2 miles up Loudon Road. When you really start going down the line and started thinking about your tenants and the residential, it'd be really helpful if the marketing effort could be exit 3 off of 393. Try to kind of guide the people from day one coming in from the other sides. And that could be one of your TM measures, that VIA talks about, because unfortunately, unless Waze tells you, I just came back from the Seacoast today. I live in East Concord, off exit 16, and believe it or not, Waze will actually send me down 393 to 93, back to 16 and up, rather than going East Side Drive. Be great if this could happen, that it sends you 393 instead of Loudon Road. And that, unfortunately, it'll happen somewhat because of congestion, but it'd be nice if we could have a leg up. That's it, Rich. I really have high level.
Jeff, I'm proud of you.
Thanks,
Proud
Jeff.
of you.
I wasn't there.
Proud of you.
I know I'm gonna get another look.
Any other? Yes, Teresa.
I was just gonna say, I will say, I wasn't quite so sure about the drive-through of building one.
Building
The
one.
donut.
Yep.
When I looked at that space initially, and the pool and all that, I thought, wow, that's great space for kids kicking soccer balls and all that. But I'm not quite so sure, I'm still not sure I understand why you're doing it. The underneath the.
Parking?
The parking. No, is it parking? Is it really just for
I think, are
parking?
you getting at why the pass-through was
Yeah, what?
was proposed?
Yeah. Is it just for parking?
Part of it was, Rock can probably
Yeah,
speak
part of it
to
was
yeah.
parking, and part of it was general circulation, part of it was also a feeling that the fire department would like to be able to get into the donut and to fight a fire on any of those facades, because it's a very big courtyard. So I would think they wouldn't be too concerned about driving a truck in there. But we'll have
Is
to
it
see what-
two-way or one-way? Two-way?
It's two-way, yeah, and 2 stories tall, right, so there's the bottom 2 levels.
Right.
So how do you access the underground parking?
Road
Top left right there.
Top left. So could you leave the entrance on Road 1? Is it Road 1? Leave the entrance on Road 1, but not have it go through the building? Just have, so you've got access to the courtyard under the building, but it doesn't go anywhere, so it's not used as
It's
a
a ped
pass-through?
access. It's a pedestrian access.
Pedestrian
only.
access.
Take out all that parking. and
Take
let it
out,
just-
Potentially.
yeah, just the thoughts, just, and
'cause
the
you-
fire department would love it, because they can get in, you're right, that's a valid point, as long as a truck can
When the
get under it,
conversation started,
a
wasn't
ladder
emergency
truck could get
access.
under it, yeah. That's a valid point. But if you had it just come into it, as opposed to, not really have it, no reason other than public safety, I guess, at that point.
I mean, at that point.
Okay,
you-
sorry,
you-
somebody
no,
said
no.
something.
You could consider, still having the space, being all pedestrian all the way through there, and you could have removable bollards that the fire department, in an emergency, if they had to get in, they pop them. And there's a couple different ways you can do them, as they have a lock at the bottom. There's some that mechanically drop in, not something I would probably recommend because of the winter,
There's
but.
sheer pin ones as well, yep.
Yeah, something that maybe, because to me, that just, you say circulation, and I look at that and I say, cut through traffic, safety issue, that's what Road 2's for. And then you have the road in between 2 and 1 that kind of completes the circle around the building. I don't really see, other than if you are trying to get to the retail, why you would cut through that building.
So, thank you. Let us work on it.
Yeah.
No good deed goes unpunished, so this will fall under that category, but
And I will,
it may not be something we can get rid of. So, your suggestions of maybe it's limited use, maybe it's emergency access, we can take all that back. The idea was circulation.
and I will tell you, I would support maybe a little bit more parking reduction if that was the issue.
I wish you
Because
were on
I
the
look at
CBA.
what's over there at yeah, but I'm just saying, what I look at what's over at Costco, and I look at here, I'm just saying, if there's that opportunity, that's the trade-off, and you can only replace 50% of what's there, I'm usually the one that's always like, hey, I'm telling you, if it meant that was a safer, more pedestrian feature,
Yeah,
definitely I would support it.
closing one end of it, you lose 16, 18 parking spots. Is what I'm looking at, but, again, just take it, it for what it's worth,
Yep.
which is just a comment.
Yeah, sure.
Certainly doesn't change. And the sidewalk and the moving around the site is one that we're always gonna nit on. We wanna make sure that you haven't got dead-end sidewalks, you're making it easy for people to go through the site. The bike point is a great point as well.
Yeah, and certainly as we
Stuff you
develop
think
full
about.
site
Yeah, yeah.
plans,
Once
there's likely gonna be changes to
Sure,
sidewalk, just
absolutely.
for making,
Yep.
I think of like the university method, also look at where people are going to want to walk, because
Yeah.
they will eventually walk there anyway, and not use the sidewalk, so.
Keep in mind, in past history, though, sidewalks have been shown at the CDP level to start with. So when you say develop full, I want to make sure we're not
Oh, no,
waiting
no.
individual
Comprehensive,
sites
Yeah,
to see it,
no,
that's all.
and that's a good point, because we've talked with city, when you get CDP, you're going to be seeing site plans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they are going to be submitting concurrently. They're going to be submitting the CDP, the site
Different than what
plan,
we saw.
and the subdivision application.
We've learned,
So
yeah.
the hearing will be, we'll have a
Gotcha.
public hearing for the comprehensive development plan so that it can be approved, and then we'll move on to the public hearing for the site plan and the subdivision.
Okay.
So whatever you see in the CDP, you're going to see it the same night in the.
Okay. I only have one last question, Rich.
Yeah.
Ari, you mentioned during your initial discussion, and maybe it was an accidental, that the 2 new roads are city. It slipped out later in the discussion, but I don't remember if you said that clearly, that
I'm not usually the road guy, but I can tell you they're proposed as public. If I said something
No,
opposite
you
than
didn't,
that,
you
I
didn't really
No,
mention it at all. I think you mentioned it, and I was like, oh, that, I thought would have been, we're requesting that these become city streets from the beginning.
We are.
Yeah.
Yep, we are. That is true.
I didn't think you were hiding it. I just, it came up later. I was like, oh, okay.
Okay, anything else? Great. And for the record, I'm super excited. I think this is a great project, and your point's well taken, Ari. I think it's a spark for future development. If it's not right away, it's a few years down the road, or however it ignites the area. I think, whatever happens here, the mixed-use piece of it is great. Whoever the retailers are that are there will be well-received, and we're looking forward to seeing you often as we move through the project.
Sounds good.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Our agenda. All right, item 8B, if we could read that into the record.
Well, I have to get my agenda pulled back up here.
On the screen, it
So,
says
yeah,
click
consider
over to
adopting revised criteria
Yes.
for a new trail and procedural guidelines for establishing a new trail or trail network. Consider adopting new criteria for discontinuation of trail and procedural guidelines for the discontinuance of a trail or trail network. Well, tell us about
That
what
is
that
it.
is all about.
So let me tell you about what that is. In the current Concord Trails Plan that was adopted by this board in 2018, there are 2 pages. One is a new trails criteria list, and one is a new trails procedure list. And Trails Subcommittee had some, what I think are pretty minor updates, revisions they wanted to make to that, minor change in the title. So they made those changes. Conservation Commission approved them and adopted them. And at the same time, the Trails Subcommittee created a criteria list for discontinuing a trail and a procedure for discontinuing a trail. Those were new. They hadn't been there before, and they're not in the Concord Trails Plan. Conservation Commission also approved and adopted those. And the city attorney said that because the criteria for new were part of the Concord Trails Plan that the planning board adopted, that the planning board needed to subsequently adopt the revisions and the new forms for the discontinuance.
Wow, okay.
All right, you did a good job.
Okay, so you need from us either a motion to adopt or a motion to adopt with changes, or a
Yep.
motion to not,
Or not.
or not. Any
With reasons
conversation,
why.
any thoughts on the proposal? Council Todd?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I just thank you to the Trails Committee and the Conservation Commission for continuing to revise these
Yeah.
documents and try to make them better,
Yep.
make improvements. I think that any further clarification that we can have on the books is always beneficial. So I'm certainly not going to second guess anybody on the Conservation Commission. They usually know exactly what they're talking about, and Trails Committee as well. So, yeah.
So we've got, sounds like we've got some momentum to approve or adopt the motion. So we've got 2 items to pick from on there's 4 proposed actions that we could, again, 2 for denial, 2 for approval. We've got 1, which is a motion to adopt. I move to adopt the revised documents for establishing a new trail and new documents for discontinuing a trail as adopted by the Conservation Commission on September 11th, 2024, or motion to adopt with changes. I move to adopt the revised documents for establishing a new trail and the new documents for discontinuing a trail and adopted by the Conservation Commission on September 11th, but with the following changes. Any changes that we want to recommend, or if not, maybe we could take a motion.
I make a motion to adopt number 1.
Adopt number 1 on your list, to adopt the revised documents for establishing a new trail and a new documents for discontinuing a trail as adopted by the Conservation Commission on September 11th, 2024.
Second.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Just a
Discussion?
quick question. The statement before that said 4 documents.
Yeah, there's only 3.
Okay,
Yeah, there's only
just
3.
wanted to understand that we weren't
Sorry.
missing one in the
Yep.
approval.
We could say we want to not do it and have
Well,
changes or something like
No,
that.
no,
but-
you just, one
yeah.
can stay. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure
Yeah,
one
no,
wasn't
for the
missing. and I
record,
was
for the
trying to-
record, there's only 3. Okay, so we had a motion, I believe, a second?
Did.
Council Todd seconded that. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to the end of our agenda, I believe, right? C was done. Any other information to come before the board tonight? Anybody have any topics of conversation? Other than wishing everybody a happy holidays? I think we are adjourned. If someone would like to make a motion?
That's impressive.
Motions to adjourn?
Is that a motion to adjourn?
That's a motion.
All right, David has made a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. We are
David,
adjourned.
are you yawning or?